So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Shoutouts to hashtag Team Pixel, hashtag gift from Google. Google did send this one out for review. Quick disclaimer, just wanted to let that be known. I have been using it for the better part of the past full week as my main device, and I got a lot to say about the Google Pixel 7 Pro, and if this is something you want to pick up for yourself. This does start at $899, and that is for 128 gig, but you're getting quite a lot of spec for that money, and it makes it even a better deal, I think, for some people than something like an iPhone 14 Plus, which comes in at the same price point. This also does feature a Google Tensor G2 chipset, 12 gigabytes of RAM, a 6.7-inch QHD Plus display. It also does have Android 13 on board, 12 gigabytes of RAM, Titan M2 for security. Also does have in-display fingerprint sensor, a triple rear camera with a really nice zoom, as well as a macro lens. There's a lot going on for this phone, including a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. So those are basically the key specs that really matter here. So discussing the build and the body, after about a week, I can tell you that I think this phone feels quite good in the hand. It's actually a pretty decently light 212 grams by comparison to some other phones that could weigh up to 240, 250 grams, even higher on things like a Galaxy Z Fold. This phone just has a nice balance to it. It also does have polished aluminum edges, as well as a nice camera bar on the back that's pretty shiny in the snow colorway. You can also get this in hazel and a darker color as well. Now, this phone here on the back is glass, so it's not a matte texture if you're looking for fingerprint free. This one's not going to be that for you, but it does provide a good grip on the back, and overall, I think it feels pretty good to hold. So I'm not disappointed. It's typical flagship stuff, and they continue on here. Also a 19:9 aspect ratio display, means that it's relatively wide. It's not an ultra skinny narrow phone that won't give you what you need in terms of width for being a large smartphone. So overall, I gotta say, I really enjoyed the design. It fits in the pocket well, it's easy to hold, and it looks quite nice. It looks quite polished for a Google Pixel product. So when it comes to the software with the Google Pixel 7 Pro, you are looking at a very smooth Android software, Android 13 on board, but really what you're getting is a more Google-fied experience, aka most of the Google services are just going to work fantastic on here, including Google Maps, Google Sheets, Google Keep, Notes, Google Photos, Google News, all the Google stuff. This is the best phone to rock it with. Also, the Google search is basically front and center on the Pixel launcher pretty much all the time. So if you're into Google services, this is the phone for you. If you do like a clean version of Android the way it was intended, this is also going to be for you. And I just think it's very intuitive. Just swipe up and all the apps are in alphabetical order. And this software just super clean overall. Now you do have a few extra features. If you go over here into accessibility, they got quite a few of those. Also, if you go into system down here, you're going to find something called gestures, and you have plenty of gestures here. Quick tap, quickly open camera, flip to camera, one-handed mode. So some smart additions, but overall it's a pretty clean and simple software. Also, Google does do a really good thing here. They do take advantage of display. So you can split the screen on most applications here. So if I go ahead and do that, I can go ahead and split the screen on board here for this. So pretty cool. It's something that's very minimal, and you don't want to be dealing around with like trying to learn too much. I think this is one of the best, if not the best, Android option on the market. Also, this software will be updated for several years to come, up to 5 years, and it does get a lot of those major updates faster than other phones. And when it comes to the display with this phone, I do have to say that the Pixel 7 Pro definitely delivers. At 6.7-inch QHD Plus resolution, this phone does give you incredible sharpness as well as incredible detail. If I go over here to display and I scroll down, you'll see we do have color modes. You can do adaptive or natural. I tend to leave it in adaptive for more saturation, but if I scroll down here, you also see something called smooth display. So you get that smooth refresh rate, and you get the ability to go into QHD Plus. Now, by default, this phone is in the full HD mode, so you're not going to get an incredibly sharp panel right out of the gate. You have to go in the settings and tweak that. But overall, this OLED panel, rich contrast, large, it's very competitive with things like the S22 Ultra and the 14 Pro Max. In addition, it does have an extremely smooth overall feel day to day. So everything I've done on this phone has felt buttery smooth. This is the smoothest Android phone I've used all year. I have to just say it. Nothing has felt smoother in terms of just kind of animations and everything, just feeling butter. It's about perfect, honestly, when it comes to that. So they nailed this phone right out of the gate with extremely smooth software. And the fingerprint sensor, even with this screen protector I did put on it, is doing fantastic. It pretty much responds every time. Also, Google decided to keep a, punch hole camera, so you get mostly a full screen experience. For rotation, it is on. We'll go ahead and turn the screen, and you can see you can use it like a little tablet in the landscape mode. So definitely they thought about that as well. I gotta say, you are getting a really good deal here for $899 with the display. This display rivals phones that are like $1,000+. So definitely a really good panel. So since we are already on the topic of the smooth panel, I just have to mention performance. The Tensor G2 has not been the best for thermal management. I found that this phone definitely has gotten warmer than some other phones I've used under heavy use. But that was, not every time. It wasn't all the time, but I did have to mention that. I do think that Google can still improve the CPU or make the phone just a little bit less warm. Sometimes it gets a little warm. We are using 5 nanometer. Some phones have went to 4 nanometer, so I think slightly behind here. And gaming performance wasn't quite as strong as some other phones, and benchmarks weren't as high. However, where I will really give them praise is that this phone is very well optimized. So even though I can't brag about it being the best CPU, the fastest out there, as optimized as Google has made the software for the chip, the phone can rival and if not feel faster to the user than a lot of phones that cost a lot more. So my thing is, general day-to-day performance, this thing is butter smooth. Butter, like better than most Samsung phones I tried. When you start pushing these phones to their max, then there is phones that are more powerful at the top level. But if you're just a casual day-to-day user, which most people are, the Pixel is going to be probably the smoothest Android experience out there. So that's all I got to say about performance. I think it's really good, and I think you'll really enjoy it. And having those software updates and being on that clean version of Android really does make a difference in terms of performance. 12 gigs of RAM also ensures that a lot of apps do not reopen, so you do have really good RAM management as well. So overall performance, I would say it's not the best out there, but it's really good. Now, I do have to mention the cameras because this is the number one reason I recommend you pick up the Google Pixel 7 Pro. The cameras on here are just so easy to use, and they have great AI technology that allows them to give you incredible results when you do zoom in. I'm going to show you my actual samples in a minute, but they combine this like software stuff with the camera hardware to give you zoom pictures that would rival zoom cameras that are even further or just a little bit better hardware. So they do a good job with software is what I'm saying. And I like the 2X, the 5X, the 1X. And then you do have portrait modes, motion modes. You can take things out of your image if you want, if it gets in the way. You have a max night sight mode. You do have video mode, slow motion, time lapse, cinematic modes over here. There's a lot you can do with this camera. It's not an 8K camera though. You can do 4K 60 on board, but I don't think anybody's asking for 8K anyway. And just the overall results are pretty solid. You do have stabilization in video. You can get some ultra, stabilization where it won't shake at all during movement. So that's pretty cool as well. Different aspect ratios. And then the front-facing camera is also quite solid. So I do like that as well. I think it's improved over the Pixel 6 Pro. And one of the best features overall has been the new camera macro mode, where when you get really close to things, it will do a macro shot. We're not going to do it here, but you can see you have all the way up to 30x zoom on here. And I can tell you that 30x zoom was pretty clear for being a combination of digital and software using the hardware camera. I mean, look at that. That's pretty darn clear. So take a look at my samples. Let me know your thoughts on the Pixel 7 Pro. I think it's one of the best Android options out there for sure. It's so easy to take photos and you get ridiculously good results, better than you would get on a lot of regular cameras if you don't know what you're doing. I do want to mention that I really like how Google does the always on display. I think they do it right. You know, the phone doesn't get too bright and the always on display kind of looks like what you would expect. Pretty dark, really not too in your face, and really kind of enjoy it there. Now, I also have to mention that the fingerprint sensor has been fantastic, very accurate and smooth. And I do have to talk about one of the most important areas before we wrap up the review, the battery life. How has it been? I can say that it's been better than my S22 Ultra, not quite as good as my 14 Pro Max, but still good. It gets through a full day. It charges very fast as well. And I can say the phone is not going to let you down here. You'll get through a full day of use with the Pixel 7 Pro. But don't be fooled by the 5,000 milliamp hour battery and thinking that this is the best battery life on the market. You can also get better battery life by turning on battery saver modes, as well as turning off the QHD plus resolution during the daytime when you probably won't even be paying too much attention to how sharp the text is as you're out and about doing stuff. But other than that, I gotta say, the battery hasn't disappointed me. I've been easily able to get through a day of moderate to heavy usage and not having to worry too much, but this is not extending into 2 days unless you're an extremely light user. Phone call quality has been strong as well with Qualcomm 5G modems. Signal strength has been great on this phone, and I will say that this phone itself has been pretty good for speakerphone calls as well. It's pretty loud. It's not the best I've heard on the market, but they are pretty good. So I do like the overall performance there. Let's wrap it up. The Google Pixel 7 Pro. This phone is a polished version of the Pixel 6 Pro, and I'm very happy to recommend it. I think a lot of people will really love this experience. It's smooth. It's actually buttery smooth. The fingerprint sensor is quick. The cameras are great. The display is brighter this year, finally. It just feels like everything has been upgraded and in slight ways, but enough to make it a better phone than last year. So I think it's a really good option if you want a clean Android experience, and I do recommend it. However, do keep in mind that they do have a smaller Pixel 7. If you do want a smaller size, it's pretty similar to this phone. And the Pixel 6 Pro is also still a great phone, but this one's more comfortable, so I would recommend going with this one. That's it for me. Pixel 7 Pro, really good job here by Google. They can improve the battery life again. They can make the CPU a little bit faster and a little bit better with thermals, as I found it to get a little warm over my more intense use. But other than that, it's really at the top of the game and competes very well with everything else on the market. I really like how they do have a Google Pixel Watch. I'm going to cover that separately that goes along with this. They're really bringing the ecosystem together. Thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know what you want to see on the Google Pixel 7 Pro, Pixel Watch down below in the comments. I'll catch you on the next one. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.